In the wondrously strange wild west of TikTok, I often get into discussions, we'll call them, in the comment section as to what is or is not the law and what is or is not a legal definition. For example, what is parking? Somebody just yesterday was arguing blind that if you park your car and then go to get a ticket, you're already in breach of the terms because you haven't yet paid for your ticket. So the only alternative is to pull your car up right by the ticket machine, get out and buy a ticket so that you're not parking your car. Now, as you can probably already guess where this video is going, that's not quite true. But before we get into the detail, welcome back to the channel. If you are new to me, I'm a barrister who helps you understand law. And in this video, hopefully clarifying once and for all what it means to be parked. Now, the question as to whether your car is parked is obviously quite important. It might have a number of ramifications. Is your car parked when you're sitting at a red light? Is an ambulance parked because it stops to assist somebody at the side of the road? Is a motorist parked who pulls the vehicle over to the side of the road and turns the engine off to take a phone call? And more pertinently, how about the driver who stops his car for a while, gets out to read the signs on a car park to see whether or not they want to accept those terms, because obviously they'll be forming a contract if they do decide to park there. Are they parking their car whilst they get out to read the signs and pay for the car parking ticket? Well, if any of these questions have come into your mind before now, hopefully you'll know the answer to them by the end of this video. So like anything else, there is usually a definition found somewhere in law, which is often why you need a lawyer, because you won't necessarily know where to look for it. Someone once said you don't pay a lawyer to know, but you pay the lawyer to find out. And such as it is, every definition is found either in an Act of Parliament or a statutory instrument, or as in this case here, in a form of words used by a judge in a case from 1937. The case was Ashby and Tolhurst of 1937 and involved some fairly intricate issues well beyond the realm of simple parking. But more about that perhaps in another video. The relevant portion for this, however, is the definition of parking. The judge said as follows: you take a car park ticket in order to obtain permission to park your car at a particular place. And parking your car means, I should have thought, leaving your car in that place. If you park your car in the street, you are liable to get in trouble with the police. On the other hand, you are entitled to park your car in places indicated by the police or the appropriate authorities for the purpose. Parking a car is leaving a car, and I should have thought, nothing else. So there it is, fairly definitively, in the words of a judge, parking your car means leaving your car in that particular place. Now, how does that apply to the situation where you pull onto a car park and you are otherwise deemed to be accepting the terms of a contract by leaving your car on that car park if you haven't yet read those terms? Well, let's think this out in a scenario. Let's say you drive your car into a car park. How are you going to properly avail yourself of the opportunity to read those terms unless you get out and read the terms on the signs? Well, in this scenario, I would suggest that this definition from this case, which is still good law, would provide a fairly robust defense if you were to pull your car into a spot, get out and read the sign or the pricing for parking, decide that that's too expensive or the terms are too onerous, or simply you can't park long enough, for example, maximum stay 2 hours and you need to be there all day. If you get back into your car and drive away. If in that scenario you get chased down for a parking charge notice because you didn't pay but they claim that you parked, I would be citing this case and this definition in my defense to say that I didn't park my car there because by the definition, literally by definition, I didn't leave it there. I pulled into a spot, yes, and I got out and I read the sign. I looked at the terms provided. I looked at the pricing. I looked at any other terms that might apply. It might even be that I didn't accept the term, which would be a term for a parking charge notice to apply if I overstayed. Maybe I just didn't like that term and didn't want to accept it. If I got back in the car at that point and drove away, then my argument will be that I didn't leave the car there. In fact, I considered the terms, decided against them, and didn't enter the contract. Now, thinking about how this will play out in court, The argument from an overzealous parking management company would obviously be that I was in the car park for a period of time and therefore I should pay for parking. They might even say that by pulling into the spot and getting out of the car, they define that as parking. But in my view, for what it's worth, they would be wrong, because I would cite this definition from this case, Ashby and Tolhurst, and I would say that I didn't park the car there because I didn't leave the car there. I only got out of the car long enough to read the signs, consider the terms, and decide whether or not I want to leave the car there, and thus the contract would be formed. Now, also in the Wild West comment section on TikTok, some people do say that, believe it or not, that this needs to be signed by both parties to be a legally binding and valid contract. But of course, that's not true. I responded in kind with the example that you never sign for your groceries in the local supermarket, because a contract doesn't need a signature to be binding and valid. In fact, parking contracts such as these very often are known to be automated contracts where you simply go to a machine, you put the money in, and it gives you a ticket. Some of them, in few places around the country, still have an attendant at the front that will take your money by hand and give you a handheld ticket. But in probably the vast majority of cases, you will either take a ticket on entry or you're going to take a ticket from the machine. This does give rise to yet another question, because if you are at a barrier and you can only go through the barrier with a ticket, but that was your only opportunity to read the terms of parking, what if you then drive around and then you want to leave without paying and without parking, without leaving your car there? Well, most of these places these days do have a grace period to let you out, but I do know of one such place that will not let you out without paying for a minimum of 1 hour. They say that the parking signs at the front of the car park are a clear opportunity for you to decide whether to enter the car park or not. However, my argument would be that you have no choice but to go through the barrier and take a ticket, because there might be cars behind you, and it might be otherwise illegal to reverse out and force them to reverse out onto a main road, causing mayhem, and it would obviously be safer to go in and come straight back out again. Personally, I think if these cases go to court, and you can probably even demonstrate with the evidence provided by the car park management to say that you were in and out in under 60 seconds or so, that either A, you had no choice but to go through the barrier because you couldn't reverse, or B, that was your opportunity to consider the signs, consider the terms, and decide not to accept those terms. Again, I would be relying on this definition to say that you did not leave your car in that place, therefore you didn't park your car. And if the contract is for parking, there is no real contract because you didn't park your car. Now, I do understand that these cases are met with very mixed results across the country, hence the law that was in force since March 2019, although the parking code was revoked and is yet to be fully fledged in its replacement. But I do think there will be a proper code which will mandate a grace period both before parking and after parking, which will account for this period to decide whether or not you want to park the car. In the meantime, my guidance, not legal advice, you understand, will be to cite this case, which I will put in the description below. So I hope you will find that useful, because as far as a definition goes, that, I suggest, is as clear as it gets. If you did not leave your car in that place, you didn't park it. That's what I would be citing, and that's what I would be relying on in my defense. So if you found this video useful at all, I would really appreciate you bop that like button and subscribe, and maybe share this with somebody, because I'm really trying to reach 250,000 subscribers on my mission to 1 million subscribers, so that I know that I've helped at least 1 million people in helping you to understand law. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching.